Hello, it's Michael E. Gerber speaking to you again from Carlsbad, California, the land that God created just for you and just for me. Welcome to Awakening the Entrepreneur Within. And today's invitation to join me and Dr. Ivan Misner in the joy of networking with Giver's Gain, creating an international enterprise from a company of one to a company of 8,000. The story of Ivan Misner and the great enterprise he founded and led, the story of BNI. Dr. Misner, what a delight to have you here with us. Thank you.
Michael, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And Michael, we've known each other long enough now. You got to call me Ivan. You know that.
I know that, but I had to at least express my deep consideration for the fact that you are Dr. Ivan Misner to the rest of the world.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. You know what Ph.D. stands for, don't you, Michael?
No, what does it stand for?
Pilot, higher, and deeper.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you so much for having me on this, Michael. I really appreciate it. I'm happy to be here.
Well, Ivan, we're happy to be here. And one of the primary reasons we have you here is because of the stunning success that you have had, going from literally a company of one, Ivan Misner, to a company of 8,000 people, touching the lives of 243,000 people worldwide and growing every single day. It's beyond belief to anybody who is starting out in the very beginning as a new entrepreneur, believing that in fact they could actually accomplish what you've accomplished. So my reason for asking you here today is to share your incredible story with all of the folks who are listening to us, and how it started, selfishly, I must say, with the E-Myth Revisited way, way, way back then, when you were trying to figure out how to do what you set out to do to bring networking to the world. Yeah. So can you tell everybody about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started BNI in the mid-'80s, I wanted to scale the organization. And I'll tell you, the book I used, and you and I have had this conversation, and I am so incredibly grateful to you. The book I used as the blueprint for scaling BNI was the E-Myth. And I read it, and it's dog-eared and notes all over it, and I used it as the manual for learning how to work on my business and not just in my business. I'll tell you, one of the first things that I really used, and I didn't think it would make such a big impact, but I did it. One of the things in there you said is write everything down as though you're going to franchise your business, even if you're not going to franchise your business, even if you don't plan on franchising your business. And I had no intention of franchising my business, but I wrote everything down. I created systems and processes and manuals. And you know what? I had so many manuals and systems, it was like easy to franchise. And that's what BNI did. We're now a franchise operating in 73 countries around the world. And that's because of you, my friend.
Oh, well, thank you, Ivan. But hear that. It's not just because of me. It's because of the deep, deep commitment that you made to literally doing what you read.
Yeah.
I'd love to say if every single person who picked up the E-Myth Revisited took it as seriously as you did and literally do every single day as your company grows and expands beyond belief, as you do that, because you saw it wasn't simply words, it was actions printed into a almost microscopic pattern that could be replicated successfully, is exactly as though you were Ray Kroc starting out at McDonald's with your very first hamburger stand.
Yeah, that's very true. And I have told people for 30 years, the first book you need if you want to scale your company is a book called The E-Myth. And I've been recommending that book for so long because it's absolutely made a huge difference in my business and in my life. And And you're right. It's not just a matter of reading a book. There's a lot of books I've read. The question is, do you apply it? Is it actionable? Are there things that you can do? And there were certainly a lot of things in the E-Myth that was actionable for me and that I applied. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you remember this, but I think we actually connected because I did an interview on a radio show. This is my recollection of how we connected. I did an interview on a radio show, and they asked me, well, what are the books that helped you build your business? And I said, well, that's easy, the E-Myth. And you heard that and reached out to me. I don't know if that's your memory, but that's my memory of it.
It is my memory.
Yeah.
I heard that and reached out to you, and we've had an incredible relationship ever since.
We have.
Not as connected as I would have loved to have been, because we've both been very, very busy in our lives.
Yeah.
But in fact, every single time we've come together, Ivan, I experience it in my heart, the connection between us. And it's not just a intellectual connection. It's truly a heart-based connection, because you have touched people in a way that very, very few, an infinitesimal number of people have ever touched people. With your philosophy on the bridge of, you might say, your enterprise called Giver's Gain. Can you talk something about that, which I see as a truly remarkable system?
Well, thank you. Listen, I think that culture eats strategy for breakfast. That if you can create an organization with an amazing culture, that's the secret sauce of a business. And so I went to a lot of networking groups, and some of them were incredibly mercenary. They just, it was just about selling to me. And I would go home and I needed a shower. I felt like I needed a shower afterwards because I'd been slimed. And then I went to these other groups that were all social, and it was just about happy hour and hors d'oeuvres. And I didn't like either of those. And so I wanted to put together something that merged business with relationships, and the glue that would hold it together is this philosophy of Giver's Gain. This idea that if I help you, you'll help me, we'll all do better as a result of it. And it's one of the things that I think really worked in BNI. If you went to any one of our 8,600 chapters in 73 countries and you said, what's the philosophy of BNI?
Let me stop that. 8,600 chapters.
Yeah.
73 countries.
Yeah.
From a company of one, just a guy, to grow something that expansive. So keep on talking about that, Ivan.
Well, I like to call it garage to global. I literally went out of my garage and in a little room above the garage to a global enterprise with offices in countries all around the world. And I did it because I wanted to create a vision that was scalable. I wanted BNI to be scalable. And of course, the blueprint for that was the E-Myth for me. But I really focused on trying to make the company scalable, which means understand your numbers, know your numbers. And you say that to people like, yeah, I get it. No, I mean, you got to really know your numbers. I get a daily report as to how many members we have and how many chapters we have. Not weekly, not monthly, not semi-annual. I get a daily report 5 days a week as to how many members and chapters we have worldwide. So you got to know your numbers. You gotta. I talk to people about setting goals, and they're like one of those bobblehead dolls in the back of a car. Yeah, I know. You got to set a goal. Right. No, you really have to set a goal. You can't hit a target you're not aiming at. So you got to set goals. Now, here's something that I talk about that is a little different. Once you set those goals, then reverse engineer it. So if you have a goal to be someplace by December, then where are you going to be in November? Where are you going to be in October? Where are you going to be in September? Where are you going to be in August? So reverse engineer it so that 1 month from now, if I'm not on my target, if I start this in January and it's February and I'm not on target, I know immediately. What happens is people set goals and then it's, July or August and they're like, oh, dude, look at my goals. I'm not anywhere near it. It's like, yeah, because you haven't been watching it. So these are the kinds of things that I tried to do to help scale my company.
Yeah, but you did something else. And there's something else I'm going to say that you did. You literally followed a process and took that process to heart and instilled that process into the day-to-day operation of what you did.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just knowing the numbers. It was knowing how people spoke to each other. It was what they said to each other. It's the reason they said that to each other. It's how they impacted each other and how they experienced each other. And you made a science of that. So that science of networking is more than just moving people.
That's right.
It's truly connecting in a way that very few organizations have ever connected, which is what the culture of BNI truly has become.
Yeah, it is, and I think you have to have a plan to do that. You have to write that all down, just as you say in the E-Myth, and we do. I mean, we have our leadership team manual is 40 or 50 pages to run a 1.5 hour meeting, and it starts with visitor host needs to stand there and say, welcome to BNI. And then, we give them the things to say and what to do. And then you do this, and then you do this part of the meeting, and it's all laid out. Anyone who follows the program is going to generate a lot of business through word of mouth. I don't know if you know this, but last year we passed 9.1 million referrals worldwide.
Wow. And
we generated for our members 13.1 billion with a B, $13.1 billion worth of business for our members. Now, I don't know if you know this, but 13.1 billion is about the same as the gross domestic product for the country of Liechtenstein.
Think about that.
Yeah, okay, it's a small country, but still, how cool is that?
Oh man, how cool. And how absolutely incredible that you remarkably persisted in organizing and orchestrating everything you did. When somebody would tell me, yes, but that's micromanaging people. Yeah. People should make it up themselves as they go to work every day. And you know the folly of all that. That in fact, if you have 8,000 people making it up themselves every single day, you have chaos.
Total chaos. Total chaos. So I tell people, you want to be successful in business. I think this is the most important thing. And it's exactly what you're talking about. You want to be really successful, do 6 things 1,000 times, not 1,000 things 6 times. And what happens with business people is they bounce around. They keep chasing one bright, shiny object after another bright, shiny object, and they can't figure out why they're successful. I even keep when I'm doing webinars or whatnot, I even keep a little bright, shiny object here. I show people. It's like people are always looking for the bright, shiny object. Oh, let's try that. That's an interesting idea. No, stop that. What you got to do is follow a system. Now, where do you come up with a system? Well, I started mine by reading your book and by talking to other people and talking to mentors. And I created a process, and then I did it 1,000 times. What people tend to do is they don't talk to a mentor. Virtual mentors are good, by the way. Books as virtual mentors, great. And they just wing it. And they make stuff up just like you're describing. And to me, that's the recipe for failure. By the way, it doesn't have to be 6. It could be 5. It could be 7. But it's a handful of things, and you got to be a dog with a bone.
And absolutely, it lives at the heart of what you do at BNI. And I know that, and I've experienced that. And I'm so absolutely inspired by your ability to sustain your direction and the way in which you've actually orchestrated every single step in the process as you're learning step by step by step how to do this work, how to do this work, how to do this work. And just like my great saxophone teacher, Merle Johnston, told me when I was 11 and a half years old, he said, I'm going to teach you how to become one of the best saxophone players in the world. But in order to become one of the best saxophone players in the world, you're going to have to practice what I tell you to practice. And you're going to have to practice it 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then you're going to have to come here and prove to me that you practiced exactly what I told you to practice in exactly the way I told you to practice. No fooling around here. Right. So I got that at 12 years old. Think about that.
That's a good lesson.
Taught me how to sell encyclopedias, did exactly the same thing. He said, memorize this paragraph and then come demonstrate it to me. And then I went and demonstrated it to him, and he said, no, not like that, like this. And then he repeated identically the same words, but in the way that he expected me to. Right. And then I went home and studied that. You got it? Ivan.
Yeah, absolutely.
So delightful. What we're going to do, we're going to take a break, and we're going to provide some more information to the folks who are listening. Then we're going to come back for Q&A. I want everybody on the call to be able to ask you whatever questions they have about whatever they want to know about Dr. Ivan Misner and BNI and the absolute profound success you've created from a company of 1 to a company of 8,000 with 243,000 people out there following your lead. How absolutely extraordinary, Ivan.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be right back, everybody.
Hi, I'm Ivan Misner, founder of BNI and one of the co-authors of Who's in Your Room. So let me take you on a little journey. Imagine that you live your life in one room. And that one room has one door. And that one door is an enter-only door. So that when someone comes into your life, they are there forever. Now, luckily, it's a metaphor, but I'd argue that it's more than that. But let's say it's a metaphor. If that were true, would you be more selective about the people that you let into your life? Almost everyone we talk to says, oh, yeah, I'd be a lot more selective. Okay. So why aren't you? Why aren't you more selective about the people that you let into your life? You know, I talk to some people and they say, well, you know, I can get them out of my life. I can get them out of my life and out of my room. And I'll ask them, I'll say, well, think about somebody who is out of your life completely. Think about them for a moment. What do you think about them? And you could see they're angry and they're frustrated and whatever. And I'll say, if you remember that person and you remember the details of that frustration, then they're still in your head. And if they're in your head, they're in your life. So it's more than a metaphor. Because once people come into your life, they are then in your head and they're there forever. What we want to help you learn how to do is to deal with those people that you've let into your life and into your room, deal with them more effectively, and more importantly, is to learn how to keep people out of your life and out of your room so that you can live the life of your dreams.
Welcome back, everybody. Now let's go into the Q&A that we just love to go into, where every single one of you get to ask our guest any question you have. And Ivan has said, ask me anything at all.
The only dumb question is the unasked question, Michael. I'm happy to answer anything.
Thank you, Ivan. So let's have questions. So what's the next question? Ivan, what's BNI?
So BNI is a business and professional networking organization that allows one person per profession to join a group. It's a platform for business people to generate business through referrals. We have 8,650 chapters, 73 countries. What happens is our members get together on a weekly basis, one person per professional classification. They get to know each other, trust each other, build a relationship, and pass referrals to each other. It's a rather unique kind of business, but it's been very successful. We've operated now for over 33 years.
Think about that. Marie, that's a great answer to a great question. We have now another question. What is the charity component?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you bring that up. BNI does have a foundation. It's called the BNI Foundation. And my wife and I founded the BNI Foundation 20 years ago, 1998. And we really feel that we, as successful business people, I don't want to tell anybody what they should do, but that we felt that as successful business people, we had an obligation to put back into the communities from which we draw. And the BNI Foundation supports children and education all around the world. We chose children because they represent about 20% of our population, but they also represent 100% of our future. And so we do programs that relate to helping children through mini grants and through a program called Business Voices, where our chapters actually kind of support local schools or local programs. They adopt local schools and local programs and help them. I got a real quick story. You'll love this, Michael. Absolutely love it. One of the schools wanted to have a vocation day. And so we sent BNI members from this chapter to do this vocation day. And one of the BNI members was representing the category of entrepreneur. Okay. Now it's for elementary school kids. These are like, 9, 10-year-old kids. How do you tell a 9-year-old what an entrepreneur is, right? So the BNI director, he was a member and a director. He went to a chapter and he said, okay, so you guys, you want to know what an entrepreneur is? And they're like, yeah, what is it? So here's the thing about an entrepreneur. You have no boss. And the kids are like, no boss? Are you kidding me? No, entrepreneurs, no boss. You're the boss. They're like, how can we be an entrepreneur? And he got everybody excited about being an entrepreneur. I love the Business Voices program, and that is part of our charitable arm. Thanks for asking that question.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Ivan. What's your dream and vision been before you started BNI?
I really believe that that I, as an individual, may not be able to make a world of difference, but I can make a difference in the world. I'll repeat that. I believe that I may not be able to make a world of difference, but I can make a difference in the world. And my goal has always been really to just make a difference, to impact others. You see, we all have people that are in our stories. I tell Michael, you're in my story. I tell people about my success because of your book and your mentoring, the things you've told me. So you're in my story. The big thing though is not just who's in your story, but to me, the big thing is whose story am I in? Whose life have I influenced or changed or helped because of the things I've done? So I think what's really motivated me is to try to be my best self so that I can help other people be their best self and maybe end up in some people's stories.
That's a
great question.
And I hope everybody listening to us hears the way in which Ivan uses words. People say it's just words, Michael. It's just words, Michael. It's just words. Words are what make people capable of doing what people are capable of creating. Without words, we couldn't. And Ivan's use of the language speaks to Ivan's passion for the outcome of his language in the work that he pursues. So I just love the way you frame your words, Ivan, because it's obvious to me that you've truly considered the words that you use. And it's remarkable.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We have another question.
Hands down, no question about it, getting everyone. Sorry, go ahead, Michael.
So what was the biggest single problem you had starting in the company and creating it to scale from the very beginning?
Yeah, thank you. Hands down, no question about it. The biggest problem I had was getting everyone rowing in the same direction for the same purpose at the same time. Because as you start to grow, it's like working with business people is like herding cats. Everybody's going off in their different direction. And so it's about bringing them all together, getting them focused on heading the same direction, and having them do it with a culture, with a healthy organizational culture. And what's interesting is that I found that people think, well, you don't have to worry about culture. You only have 5 or 6 employees working for you. Why are you worried about culture? Because when you have 10 or 20 employees, if you're not focused on culture with employee number one, that culture will create itself. And if you're not creating the culture, then some crazy person working for you is going to create their own culture, and it may not be what you want. So having the system, having everyone follow it, and creating an organizational culture, those are the biggest challenges in getting started.
And that's a wonderful, wonderful summation of the role that we intended to play when we began way back then in 1977 with the creation of the very first coaching company on the planet. We called the Michael Thomas Corporation. The work that we did at the Michael Thomas Corporation, learning why and how and what must be done in a very, very small business to grow it from something very, very small and almost insignificant to something as significant as what you've created, Ivan. And the story underlying that is at the heart of our culture. So without that story at the heart of the culture will go anywhere it chooses to go.
Yeah.
And wherever it chooses to go creates chaos within the dislocation of the culture and the constant fragmentation of the relationships of people within it. What you've done is so stunning, Ivan, and I just wanted to thank you for coming here today and sharing this with us and sharing it with every single person who's listening to us now and who will be listening to this conversation for time immemorial. Thank you for your story. Thank you for being who you are.
Yeah.
So Sarah asks the question, Ivan, and this is our last question. What kinds of companies, small businesses, benefit the most from being a member of BNI and participating in your BNI process?
So that's a great question. And one of the things I've learned over the years is that it's way more about the person than it is the profession. There used to be professions that I would say, I don't think that's going to work here. I mean, I'll never forget one guy sold commercial light bulbs. Not light bulbs like my office. These are light bulbs that are in big factories. So you couldn't even give them a mercy referral where, I'll buy some light bulbs from you because you couldn't use them. He did great. He did absolutely fantastic because he was highly committed to being there, following the program, getting to know people, doing one-to-ones, giving referrals. He got referrals. So I honestly found that it's more about more about the person than it is the profession. That said, you're going to generally see entrepreneurs who are selling a product or service, professionals like a lawyer, a banker, a travel agent, or healthcare professionals like a chiropractor or a dentist. Those are many of the professions that are in BNI, but we even have manufacturers, and some chapters even have unusual professions like the farming industry that are in BNI. It's all about the person. I know you're wrapping up, Michael, and I just want to get in before you wrap up completely. Thank you for everything you do for business people, entrepreneurs all around the world. Thank you for what you did for me. You helped me lay the groundwork for what I did in the future. You are absolutely an icon in the business world, and it's my honor to call you a friend. You've just made a big difference in people's lives. You are in a lot of people's stories. You're definitely in mine.
Oh, thank you, Ivan. And it's been a delight having you here, and we'll do this again. I'd like to, the next time we'd speak, to talk about the process by which your 243,000 members of BNI actually engage in networking, actually engage with each other in your meetings, and how you built that process so exquisitely so that you can replicate it faithfully again and again and again and again and again. It's truly magnificent.
Thank you, Michael.
So before we head out, I understand that you wrote an amazing book, and I'd love for you to share with us what that book is all about.
So the book it's coming out soon. You can do pre-orders on Amazon now. It's called Who's in Your Room? And it's really about creating the life and the room and the life of your dreams. The idea is that imagine you live your life in one room, and that one room has one door, and that one door is an enter-only door, so that when people come into your life, they're there forever. It's a very actionable book that says, okay, you want to have a great life, then you got to be more selective about the people that you let into your life or into your room. And you got to learn how to deal with those people that have gotten into your room that maybe you wouldn't have let in before you understood this concept. I honestly feel this book is going to make a bigger impact on people than any book I've ever written, because it will help people create the life of their dreams. Who's in Your Room? It's available on Amazon.
It's wonderful. And Ivan, you have 19 books or 23 books you've written.
This is my 23rd. Yeah.
Wonderful. And you're saying this is the book of all those books that's going to have the greatest single impact on everybody.
No
which
question.
essentially speaks, ladies and gentlemen, to this thing I keep on saying. If we're born in the image of God, we're born to create. And if we're born to create, we're born to create a world fit for God. And that's what every single one of us are here to do. So it's awakening the creator within you, just as Ivan has been awakening the creator within all of those tens upon tens upon tens of thousands of people he's attracted to BNI. An extraordinary man, an extraordinary life. And he's only 62. He's got much more to do. Ivan, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate you.
See you soon.
Bye.
So wasn't that extraordinary? What a wonderful gentleman. What a wonderful life. What an absolutely stunning result he's produced. Starting out just like you as a company of one, which is what every single human being on the planet really is. A company of one, an economy of one. All this time asking the question, now what? Now what? Now what? And you get to decide what's next. Now what? You get to decide how many people you're going to attract into your room. You get to decide how many people walk through that door to stay with you for the rest of your time here on the planet. You get to decide, just as Ivan has decided, just as I've decided, just like every single human being has decided, whether they know they've decided or not, that there's a way to do this thing we call life. There's a way to do this thing we call creating a life. There's a way to do this thing we call going beyond who we are to discover who we actually are by discovering the process through which our lives are renewed and renewed and renewed and renewed. Most extraordinary, most exquisite. And as Ivan said, you can't just do this randomly. You can't just go out there and every day figure out that you're going to make it up again and anew and try this and try that and try that and try the other. You have to start out with great intent. I call it the eightfold path at Radical You. And that eightfold path is the process we have finally developed to that point where we can walk every single human being on the planet through the evolution of your enterprise. And as we've said over and over again here, from a company of one to a company of 1,000, from a company of one to a company of 1,000. What are those eightfold steps? First, you got to have a dream. When Ivan refers to it as an objective, understand it's significantly more than just an objective. It's a passion. It's my passion to create, my passion to create a great result in the world. I don't know what that great result is, but I must. if I'm going to transform the state of the world in a way that every single one of us are capable of doing. So the first step in the Eightfold Path is I have a dream. Who has a dream? The dreamer. The dreamer, who is the first and most essential person within every single entrepreneur. The second step is the vision. The entrepreneur has a vision, and the vision is the form your company is going to take in order to fulfill your dream. The third step is your purpose. Hear me, I have a dream, I have a vision, I have a purpose. In my company, way back then in 1977, our purpose was to make it possible for every single small business owner who is called to our paradigm, our point of view, to be able to do exactly what Ivan Misner has done. We have done that tens upon tens upon tens upon tens of thousands of times in every kind of practice, in every kind of business, in every kind of profession on the planet. The fourth step is the mission. This is the Eightfold Path I'm talking about. What's your mission? It's to invent the system. Ivan talked about the system at BNI, the system for doing everything that must be done at BNI in order to replicate the success of BNI 8,000 times, 243,000 times. Think about the scale of that. Think about the stunning determination to do that. Think about the passion that had to be there for Ivan to sustain that and to communicate that and to acculturate that. What a stunning achievement. What a stunning achievement. And the great news is every single one of you can do it because there's a system for doing it. The last four steps in the Eightfold Path are very, very simple. Now you got a dream, now you got a vision, now you got a purpose, now you got a mission. The fifth step is your job. And your job is very simply the client fulfillment system that you're going to deliver, just like Ivan is delivering it at BNI to every one of those 43,000 participants. The next step, the sixth step, is the practice. The practice is the client acquisition system. Indeed, the practice is the three-legged stool: lead generation, lead conversion, client fulfillment. Your franchise prototype. Think just like Ivan did. If I were to franchise, how would I do this? Think about that question that Ivan just raised. If I were to franchise, how would I do this? Exactly the way I'm describing you will do this, exactly as McDonald's did, exactly as Starbucks did, exactly as Google has, exactly as Apple has, exactly as every great growing company does. And it starts with one, just you, a company of one, determined to transform the state of whatever you're determined to transform out there in the world. And finally, the seventh step is the business, and the eighth step is the enterprise. I got a job, I got a practice, I got a business, I got an enterprise, I got a dream, I got a vision, I got a purpose, I got a mission. And at Radical You, we walk you through that process, step by step by step by step by step. Every single one of you get to do what Ivan has done. Hear me. We've orchestrated the process, and it's now online for everyone. And the point of it is every single one of you can afford it. Think about that. Every single one of you can afford it. A year at Radical You is only $479.40. Totally. A year with us. What an extraordinary gift. What an extraordinary gift Ivan has given every single one of us by saying, I did it. You can do it too. This is Michael E. Gerber saying, thank you for joining us in Awakening the Entrepreneur Within. Thank you for joining us in this absolutely jubilant exercise we've just gone through with Ivan to hear his story about BNI and how he took it from one to grow it to 243,000 in chapters throughout 73 countries worldwide. Absolutely amazing. but you can do it too. Every single one of you, if you make up your mind to, and your heart will follow. This is Michael. I love being with you. I'll see you in 2 weeks with our next guest. What an extraordinary game we're playing. Bye-bye.